With a membership of operators, management companies, and suppliers, the Canadian Business Aviation Association represents the multi-billion-dollar business aviation community in Canada, providing advocacy, leadership, business development, and industry support. Visit us online today to learn more about the benefits of membership.
One of the most significant issues facing operators of all sizes over the past 2 years has been the economy, finding ways to stay profitable, productive, and strong in a challenging environment. We asked our esteemed panel of experts this question during Wings Magazine's first Industry Roundtable July 5th at the CBAA conference in Calgary. You can read the entire story in the September-October issue of Wings Magazine.
When we take a look at the traditional way business has always been undertaken, probably we'll start with post-World War II, things were always, business cycles and GNP, and now we're in a down cycle, we're in an up cycle. That criteria of economic thinking, it really doesn't exist anymore. It's continuous volatility, continuous upheaval. Variables are more difficult to manage. While we have some strong fundamentals in Canada in terms of good interest rates and good economic management on behalf, coming from government, really we're not isolated in this world. We're very co-dependent on other economies. So, and things change much more rapidly in the era that we're operating in from a perspective of not only technology, but also political events take on a bigger meaning in terms of how we do business. So while things are here and are stable, in Canada, we have things like the Middle East. We have volatile fuel prices. We have volatile economic conditions in the European community, which all impact our core business in terms of how we see business aviation. Yet, there's the BRIC, Brazil, Russia, India, and China variables. I mean, those are big developments that, while our focus was north-south with the United States, and traditionally our way of doing business now is refocusing to Latin America, to the Middle East, to China, to places like India and other emerging economies like Russia. That's changing how we do business. It's changing, perhaps, if the U.S. business cycle is going down right now, a lot of companies have shifted focus to those other economies. So that's where the opportunities really have been in the last few years, is the Middle East and China and India. And how do you manage in a rapidly changing kind of economic environment? It's something that's more complex, and it requires different kinds of management skills, especially in aviation, because aviation really is the bellwether barometer of how the economy is going. It's at the same time the leading indicator, and at the same time it's the one that is cut immediately, because it's a very discretionary kind of air travel demand. So you have airline demand and you have business aviation demand. It's a subsegment of air transport. It's basically the same function of how consumers choose the air transport. Some choose to use it directly with the airline, some want fractional ownership, some use it in different ways, some choose to have direct input into their operation. And so the real opportunity for business aviation right now is definitely shifting from traditional markets.
The industry's, I think, weathered the storm relatively well, some better than others, obviously. It's not an industry that has huge cycles anyway. I think I would characterize it for most of us in the business, the planes come and go one at a time. There's not a big buy of 800 of anything that hits the marketplace. There's certainly been huge pressures to reduce costs. We found all over the place. Margins are compressed. Demand for savings is huge on all sides. So that puts a lot of pressure to try and maintain a level of service or a level of operation without cutting too many corners or doing things that aren't smart or aren't safe. So that's, I think, a big concern for everybody. And I think the regulatory framework is a big challenge for us right now. I'm sure we'll spend some time on that today. So, but by and large, it's fairly consistent, but always under pressure. You can't take anything for granted.
Well, from a smaller operator, when the economy tends not to be the greatest, of course, we're in a manufacturing environment, and what tends to happen in our industry is when there's pressure on our business and our customers are looking at ways that they're going to save money. So they put, again, pressure on us and say, all right, what are you going to do? How are you going to reduce your prices? And then you have to start looking internally as to, okay, you start justifying each aircraft that you would have or each flight that you take. And also another problem that we face is that, you know, the idea that, oh, okay, he's showing up in an aircraft, there's a little bit of a stigmatism attached to that. You know, are we paying too much for his product so that he can show up in an aircraft? Not realizing that the aircraft is in fact a tool in order to support the business. So this is one of the struggles that we deal with, and for our business, it is an important tool because it allows myself to get to our customers quickly and efficiently and still maintain that connection with our manufacturing facility. So it is an important connection, and also when, in our type of business, when things get tough, you have to start looking elsewhere for opportunities. You just can't leave the business alone. You have to start saying, okay, where are we going to get our next sale from? Where, you know, what are we going to diversify into? Otherwise, once the business starts to decline, you're pretty much dead in the water. So.
I think that's the Canadian conservatism, though, because in the States, you hear them all the time saying, wow, that company's doing great, that auto plastics company, they just bought a private jet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And in Canada, we go, whoa, that company's spending way too much money.
Yeah.
They just bought a private jet, but they're buying it for the same reason.
Well, I think over the last several years, we've certainly seen a slowdown, but speaking from the management company perspective, I think it's been moderated by the fact that we do a lot of leisure travel as well. We call ourselves business aviation, but the fact of the matter is there's a high percentage of leisure travel in there.
Not supposed to say that.
When the economy is tough, leisure travel doesn't drop the same amount that business travel does. When the economy is booming, leisure travel doesn't go up. It's very much a moderating force. So from a management company perspective, I think we have found that it's slowed a little, but not nearly in keeping with the economy has done.
I would look at our flight department, government flight department, more as a communication tool. You know, our activity is pretty much constant year to year. In fact, I would say when things are bad, that's maybe when we're a little busier than normal, because we've got 3 million shareholders out there in the province of Alberta, and they use this aircraft to get around, dispel the stories, or give out the news story. So I don't see, from our perspective, that it changes much at all.